Rain had been falling since dawn. Dark clouds stretched across the Ohio sky, turning the quiet farming town of Ashbrook into a gray, silent world, where every storefront looked forgotten by time. Water dripped from rusted signs, puddles covered the sidewalks, and only a handful of cars lined Main Street. At exactly 11:43 in the morning, an old black pickup truck rolled slowly into town. The engine stopped outside a diner called Maggie's Family Grill, a place famous for homemade pie, fresh coffee, and friendly conversations that had remained unchanged for decades. The front door opened. A lean Asian man stepped onto the wet pavement. He wore simple black clothes with a mandarin collar, worn traveling shoes, and carried nothing except a small canvas bag slung over one shoulder. Walking calmly beside him was a magnificent German shepherd. The dog wasn't wearing any military harness or decorative collar, only a plain leather strap. Yet every movement suggested discipline. Its ears remained upright. Its breathing was steady. Its eyes constantly scanned every corner without appearing nervous. The animal wasn't merely walking. It was protecting. Bruce Lee gently rested one hand on the dog's neck. "Easy, Shadow." The dog immediately relaxed. Anyone watching carefully would notice something extraordinary. Bruce had not pulled the leash. He hadn't even looked directly at the dog. One quiet word had been enough. Inside Maggie's Family Grill, the lunch crowd filled almost every booth. Retired factory workers argued over baseball. Truck drivers laughed loudly near the counter. A young waitress hurried between tables carrying plates stacked with burgers and fries. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary, until Bruce entered. Conversations slowly faded. People glanced toward the stranger dressed completely in black. Not because he looked dangerous, because he looked completely fearless. There was a strange peace surrounding him, the kind that made people curious. Maggie herself, a 70-year-old widow who had owned the diner since the 1950s, smiled warmly. "You and your friend are welcome," Bruce nodded politely. "Thank you." Shadow quietly lay beneath the booth as Bruce ordered nothing more than black coffee, scrambled eggs, and toast. No one bothered them, at least, not yet. Across the room sat three men who had spent years making life miserable for everyone in Ashbrook. Logan Pierce, Derek Holt, Mason Reed. They weren't gangsters. They weren't famous fighters. They were something much worse. Men who enjoyed humiliating people because no one ever stood against them. Logan, the largest of the three, leaned back in his chair. "Who's the karate guy?" Derek laughed. "Looks like he got lost on the way to a costume party." Mason noticed the German shepherd. "Nice dog." His smile slowly twisted into something cruel. "I wonder if it's as brave as its owner." Their laughter echoed through the diner. Bruce didn't even lift his head. He calmly stirred his coffee. That silence irritated Logan more than any insult could have. He stood. Nearly 6'5", broad shoulders, leather jacket, heavy boots that echoed across the wooden floor. Each step announced trouble. He stopped beside Bruce's booth. "You deaf?" No answer. "I asked you something." Bruce slowly looked up. His expression remained peaceful. "Good afternoon." The simple greeting confused Logan. "You think this is funny?" Bruce smiled slightly. "I think you're angry." A few customers quietly exchanged nervous glances. Everyone knew where this was heading. Logan slammed both fists onto the table. Coffee splashed across the surface. "You think because you know kung fu you're tough?" Bruce gently lifted his cup before it tipped over. "I never said that." "Then prove you're not scared." "I'm eating." The calm answer drew quiet chuckles from a few elderly customers. Logan's face turned red. Shadow slowly raised his head beneath the table, not growling, simply watching. Bruce rested 2 fingers lightly against the dog's shoulder. "Stay." Instant obedience. No tension, no movement. Logan noticed. "So that's your bodyguard," Bruce answered softly. "My friend." The words somehow made Logan even angrier. He grabbed Bruce's coffee mug. "You don't deserve this." Before anyone could react, Bruce's hand moved. Not fast, not dramatic, just precise. 2 fingers lightly touched Logan's wrist. The mug never fell. Instead, Logan suddenly found his entire arm frozen in place. His muscles refused to cooperate. Pain shot through his shoulder. "What?" Bruce released him. The feeling instantly returned. Logan stumbled backward. No one understood what had happened, not even Logan himself. "You—" Bruce calmly picked up the mug. "You should be careful." Logan forced a laugh, pretending nothing had happened. "Lucky trick." He returned to his friends, but his pride had already been wounded. Across the room, Maggie whispered to her waitress, "I've never seen Logan back away from anyone." Neither had anyone else. For several peaceful minutes, the diner returned to normal. Bruce finished his meal. Shadow quietly rested beside him. Then Derek made the worst decision of his life. As Bruce reached into his pocket to pay the bill, Derek walked over carrying a strip of bacon. He crouched beside Shadow. "Here, boy." The German shepherd didn't move. Derek waved the bacon closer. "No?" His grin widened. "What if I make you?" He reached toward the dog's collar. Before his fingers touched the leather, Shadow stood, silently, every muscle locked into perfect readiness, the dog's eyes fixed directly on Derek. No barking, no snarling, just absolute focus. The entire diner stopped breathing. Derek's smile slowly disappeared. For the first time in years, someone had made him afraid. Bruce never looked away from Maggie while placing money on the counter. "Shadow." The dog remained perfectly still. "Sit." Instantly, the German shepherd sat, as though nothing had happened. Derek stepped backward. "What kind of dog is that?" Bruce answered without emotion. "One that understands discipline." Logan burst into laughter. "Discipline?" He pointed toward Bruce. "This little guy thinks he's teaching life lessons." The other 2 joined in. Then Logan slowly picked up Bruce's untouched slice of apple pie. He looked directly into Bruce's eyes. "This yours?" Bruce nodded once. "Yes." Logan smiled, then turned the plate upside down. The pie crashed onto the floor. Silence. Not a single fork moved, not a single voice whispered. Even the rain outside seemed to disappear. Bruce looked at the ruined pie, then at Maggie. The elderly woman looked heartbroken. I'm so sorry." Bruce gently stood. "No need to apologize." Logan stepped closer. "What now?" Bruce calmly removed his jacket, folded it neatly, placed it on the booth. Shadow quietly walked behind Bruce without being told. Every customer instinctively leaned back. They could feel it. The atmosphere had completely changed. Bruce looked directly at Logan. His voice remained almost gentle. "You've had many chances to walk away." Logan cracked his knuckles. "And if I don't?" Bruce's eyes never left his opponent. "Then the lesson begins." The room became so quiet that even the ticking clock above the counter sounded deafening. Logan stared at Bruce with a crooked grin, convinced the smaller man had finally accepted the challenge. To him, every fight followed the same pattern: bigger fists, louder threats. One hard punch and the other man stayed down. Bruce Lee stood motionless. His breathing never changed. His shoulders remained relaxed. His hands rested naturally at his sides. Shadow quietly stepped away from the center of the room and lay beside Maggie's counter, as if he already knew what was about to happen. Bruce glanced toward the German shepherd. "Stay." The dog lowered his head without hesitation. Everyone inside the diner understood something strange. The dog trusted Bruce completely. There wasn't the slightest concern in his eyes, only confidence. Logan laughed loudly. "Look at him!" He turned toward the customers. "The little guy thinks this is some kind of movie." Nobody laughed. Most of the customers had already backed away from their tables. An elderly veteran slowly guided his wife toward the wall. The waitress placed the tray she was carrying onto the counter with trembling hands. Even Maggie whispered under her breath, "Please don't let anyone get hurt." Logan stepped closer until he was barely 2 feet from Bruce. "You've got one chance." Bruce remained silent. "Apologize." Bruce simply looked into Logan's eyes. "I don't apologize to men who enjoy frightening innocent people." The sentence struck harder than a punch. Logan's smile disappeared. Without another word, he threw a vicious right hook aimed directly at Bruce's face. Gasps filled the diner. The punch never landed. Bruce tilted his head less than an inch. Logan's fist sliced through empty air. Before Logan could recover, Bruce gently tapped the inside of Logan's elbow. A tiny movement, barely noticeable. Yet Logan's entire arm suddenly collapsed as if it had lost every ounce of strength. "What?" Bruce pivoted. One open palm touched Logan's chest. Not a shove, not a strike, just a short, explosive movement. Logan's enormous body flew backward. He crashed through 2 empty chairs before slamming onto the wooden floor. The sound echoed through the diner. Silence followed. Logan blinked in disbelief. He had been hit, but he hadn't even seen the attack. "You cheated." Bruce slowly shook his head. "No." Logan struggled to stand. His chest burned. It felt as though someone had driven a battering ram into his ribs. Derek and Mason looked at each other. Neither could believe what they had witnessed. Logan roared with embarrassment. "You both get him!" The 2 men rushed forward from opposite sides. Unlike Logan, they attacked together. Derek grabbed a heavy wooden chair and swung it toward Bruce's head. At the same instant, Mason charged from behind. Bruce never turned around. Instead, he listened. The whistle of the chair cutting through the air, the pounding footsteps behind him. His body moved like flowing water. Bruce ducked beneath the chair. The heavy wood smashed into empty space. Before Derek realized he had missed, Bruce planted one hand on the chair's backrest. Using almost no visible effort, he redirected the swing. The chair continued traveling. Straight into Mason. Crash! The chair exploded into pieces across Mason's shoulder. Both men stumbled into one another. Customers screamed. Coffee cups shattered on the floor. Bruce still hadn't thrown a punch. Derek growled and lunged wildly. This time Bruce stepped inside the attack. His left hand caught Derek's wrist. His right forearm gently pressed against Derek's shoulder. One smooth twist. Nothing violent, nothing flashy. Yet Derek suddenly found himself flying over Bruce's hip. His back slammed against the diner floor so hard that every breath escaped his lungs. He rolled across the tiles, coughing desperately. Mason charged again despite the pain. He tackled Bruce around the waist. Or at least, he tried. Bruce lowered his center of gravity. Mason pushed with everything he had. It felt like trying to move a mountain. Bruce whispered quietly, "You rely only on strength." Then his foot shifted. One simple step. Mason's own momentum betrayed him. The larger man stumbled forward. Bruce's elbow gently brushed Mason's shoulder. The impact spun Mason around. Before he could regain his balance, Bruce delivered 3 lightning-fast strikes. 1, 2, 3. Each landed on pressure points around Mason's arm and ribs. The audience barely saw Bruce's hands move. Mason suddenly dropped to one knee. His right arm hung uselessly. I can't feel my fingers." Bruce stepped back. "You will." He looked calmly at Mason. "In a few minutes." Logan finally climbed back to his feet. His face had changed. The arrogance was gone. Only anger remained. He reached beneath his leather jacket. Several people screamed. A folding knife snapped open. The blade reflected the light hanging above the counter. Maggie covered her mouth. "No." Bruce's expression didn't change. "You've made another mistake." Logan pointed the knife toward Bruce. "You embarrassed me." Bruce answered quietly. "You embarrassed yourself." That single sentence ignited Logan's rage. He sprinted forward with the knife raised. Every customer believed they were about to witness a tragedy. Shadow stood. Not because Bruce had commanded him, because he sensed danger. Still, he did not move. His eyes remained fixed on Bruce, waiting, trusting. Logan slashed downward. Bruce stepped sideways. The knife missed by inches. Another slash, another miss. The blade struck the edge of a table, sending sparks into the air. Bruce never attacked. He simply avoided every strike with astonishing precision. Logan became more frustrated with every failed attempt. "You coward!" Bruce answered while slipping past another stab. "Control your emotions." Logan screamed and launched himself forward with everything he had. That was the moment Bruce had been waiting for. He trapped Logan's wrist between both hands. A quick rotation. The knife pointed harmlessly toward the ceiling. Bruce's knee bumped Logan's elbow. The fingers instantly opened. The knife spun through the air. Before anyone else could react, Bruce caught it effortlessly, without even looking. The diner erupted in shocked gasps. Bruce folded the knife closed. He placed it gently on the nearest table. "I don't need this." Logan stared at him with wide eyes. Bruce's next movement was almost invisible. One finger touched Logan's forehead. One palm pressed lightly against his shoulder. A tiny sweep of Bruce's foot. Logan lost balance completely. The giant crashed face first onto the floor. This time, he didn't get up. The diner remained frozen. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. An elderly man slowly removed his glasses. "I've never seen anything like that." Bruce looked toward Maggie. "I'm sorry about the furniture." Maggie's eyes filled with tears. "You protected everyone." Bruce smiled politely. "I protected peace." Shadow calmly walked back to Bruce's side. Bruce gently scratched behind the dog's ears. "You did well." The German shepherd wagged his tail once. Only once. Then, the distant sound of motorcycle engines echoed from outside. One engine, then another, then 5, then 10. The windows of the diner vibrated. Customers slowly turned toward the street. Leather-clad riders began surrounding the building. Their engines roared like thunder. Logan weakly smiled from the floor despite his injuries. "You think we're finished?" Bruce looked through the rain-covered window. More than 20 motorcycles had stopped outside. Large men climbed off their bikes, carrying chains, tire irons, baseball bats, and steel pipes. Their leader removed his helmet. He looked through the glass directly at Bruce, then smiled. Shadow's ears stood upright. Bruce slowly exhaled. The real battle had just arrived. The thunder outside was no longer louder than the motorcycles. The engines circled Maggie's family grill like hungry wolves surrounding wounded prey. Every vibration shook the old windows, coffee cups rattled. The silverware inside the napkin holders jingled against the tables. Children buried their faces against their mothers. An elderly couple silently held each other's hands. Nobody inside believed the nightmare was over. Bruce slowly walked toward the front window. Rain slid down the glass in thin streams, distorting the figures standing outside. 1 motorcycle, 5, 10, 15. More continued arriving. Leather jackets, heavy boots, steel chains wrapped around muscular fists. Several men carried baseball bats. Others rested crowbars across their shoulders. They weren't ordinary bikers. They moved like men accustomed to violence. Their leader removed his black helmet and placed it carefully on the seat of his motorcycle. He stood nearly 6'7". His shaved head glistened with rain. A long scar stretched from his left eyebrow to the corner of his jaw. His leather vest displayed a faded skull surrounded by broken chains. The words across his back read, "Iron Jackals." The man smiled when he spotted Logan lying unconscious inside. Then he looked directly at Bruce. Without speaking, he slowly cracked his neck. Maggie whispered behind Bruce, "That's Victor Kane." Bruce turned slightly. "You know him?" "He owns half the bars around 3 counties." She swallowed hard. "And all the trouble." Another customer added quietly, "They say he fought in underground rings all over the country." A retired sheriff sitting near the counter spoke without taking his eyes off the window. "I arrested him twice." Everyone looked toward the old man. "I never managed to keep him in jail." Victor pointed toward the diner entrance. One of his men kicked the front door. The glass shattered inward. Cold wind and rain rushed inside. Nobody moved. Victor stepped through the broken doorway as if entering his own house. His boots crushed broken glass beneath every step. He glanced at Logan, then at Derek, then Mason. All 3 had been defeated. His smile disappeared. "So," his deep voice echoed through the diner, "which one of you did this?" Nobody answered. Bruce calmly stepped forward. "I did." Victor slowly examined him from head to toe. Then he laughed. Not because Bruce looked weak, because he couldn't believe someone so calm had defeated 3 grown men. "You?" Bruce nodded once. Victor walked closer until only a few feet separated them. "You don't look dangerous." Bruce answered, "Appearances rarely tell the truth." Victor's gang spread throughout the diner. Some overturned empty chairs, others blocked every exit. One huge biker grabbed a frightened young waiter by the shirt. Bruce noticed. His eyes narrowed for the first time. "Let him go." The biker smirked. "What if I don't?" Bruce's voice became quieter. "You'll regret it." Victor raised one hand. The biker released the terrified waiter. "I'll handle him." Victor removed his leather gloves, 1 finger at a time. He dropped them onto a nearby table. "I've heard stories about you." Bruce remained silent. "They say you're fast." Another glove landed beside the first. "They also say nobody can touch you." Victor smiled coldly. "I don't believe stories," Bruce answered. "Then believe your eyes." Victor exploded forward. Unlike Logan, unlike Derek, unlike Mason, Victor knew how to fight. His first punch wasn't wild, it was sharp, accurate, fast. Bruce barely slipped outside the strike. Victor instantly followed with a spinning elbow. Bruce blocked. The impact echoed through the diner. Several customers gasped. Bruce slid backward nearly 3 feet. Victor noticed. "So," a grin spread across his face, "you felt that?" Bruce flexed his right hand once. The man's power was real. Very real. Shadow quietly stood. His ears remained locked on Victor. Bruce spoke without turning. "Stay." The dog obeyed. Victor attacked again. A crushing, low kick aimed at Bruce's knee. Bruce jumped. Before landing, Victor's fist was already waiting. Bruce twisted in midair. The punch brushed his jacket. A sleeve tore open. Victor smiled. "I finally touched you." Bruce glanced at the torn fabric, then smiled back. "You almost did." Victor roared and launched another combination. Left hook, right elbow, front kick, hammer fist. Every strike flowed into the next. The speed shocked everyone watching. Bruce blocked, redirected, slipped, countered. Neither man landed a decisive blow. The diner had become silent except for breathing and impact. Wood cracked, tables splintered, plates shattered beneath heavy feet. The retired sheriff whispered, "They're fighting 3 moves ahead of each other." Victor suddenly grabbed an entire dining table. With astonishing strength, he lifted it overhead. Customers screamed. He hurled it like a battering ram. Bruce sprinted directly toward it. Not away, toward it. At the final instant, he leaped. One foot landed briefly on the spinning tabletop. Using it like a stepping stone, Bruce launched himself over the obstacle. The table crashed into the wall behind him. Bruce landed directly in front of Victor. 3 strikes, lightning fast, palm, back fist, elbow. Victor blocked 2. The third struck his ribs. For the first time, Victor stepped backward. His expression changed. Respect had replaced arrogance. "You really are different." Bruce lowered his hands slightly. "You can still leave." Victor laughed. "I came with 20 men." Bruce answered. "Then 20 men will make the same mistake." Victor's smile vanished. He raised one arm high. The signal was immediate. Every biker rushed forward. The diner exploded into chaos. Chains whistled through the air. Bats smashed tables into pieces. Crowbars crashed against the floor. Bruce disappeared into the middle of them. His movements became almost impossible to follow. A chain flew toward his neck. He caught it. Pulled sharply. Its owner stumbled forward. Bruce redirected him into 2 other attackers. 3 men crashed together. Another biker swung a baseball bat. Bruce stepped inside the swing. His forearm jammed the attack. A short palm strike lifted the man's feet completely off the ground. He landed across the counter. Coffee machines exploded behind him. Someone attacked from behind with a steel pipe. Without looking, Bruce ducked. The pipe struck another biker instead. 2 more rushed simultaneously. Bruce spun between them. 1 elbow, 1 sweeping kick. Both collapsed. Victor charged through his own men like a charging bull. Bruce met him head-on. Their fists collided. The sound echoed through the diner. Neither moved. Victor drove his forehead toward Bruce. Bruce slipped aside. Victor crashed into a wooden support pillar. The old beam cracked loudly. Dust rained from the ceiling. Outside, more motorcycles arrived. The roar grew even louder. Maggie looked through the broken doorway. "Oh no." Bruce followed her gaze. Another convoy. At least 15 more riders. This wasn't just Victor's crew anymore. The Iron Jackals had called for reinforcements. Nearly 40 armed bikers now surrounded the diner. Victor wiped blood from the corner of his mouth. He smiled, wider than ever. "You can't beat all of us." Bruce slowly looked around the frightened customers. Then at Shadow. The German shepherd met Bruce's eyes. No command had been spoken. None was needed. Both understood the situation. Bruce inhaled slowly, then whispered only 2 words. "Guard everyone." Shadow immediately sprinted toward Maggie and the terrified families, placing himself between them and the advancing bikers. Bruce, now standing completely alone in the center of the destroyed diner, faced an army of armed men. He rolled his shoulders once, raised his hands, and waited. The longest fight of his life was about to begin. Rain hammered against the broken windows. Cold wind swept through Maggie's family grill, carrying the smell of gasoline, wet leather, and shattered wood. The diner no longer looked like the warm family restaurant it had been only an hour earlier. Broken tables lay scattered across the floor. Coffee mixed with broken glass. Steam rose from overturned pots behind the counter. Bruce Lee stood alone in the center of the room. Around him, nearly 40 members of the Iron Jackals slowly closed the circle. Each man carried something capable of breaking bones: steel pipes, chains, baseball bats, crowbars. One even wrapped a heavy motorcycle chain around both fists. Victor Kane stepped to the front. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, but his smile had returned. "I've spent 20 years fighting," his voice echoed through the ruined diner. "I've broken champions," he pointed toward Bruce, "but I've never met anyone stupid enough to stand against this many men." Bruce answered quietly, "Then today is full of firsts." Victor laughed. "So be it." He raised his right hand. Every biker charged. The floor shook beneath dozens of heavy boots. It looked less like a fight, more like a tidal wave. Bruce didn't retreat. He stepped forward. The first attacker swung a steel pipe toward Bruce's head. Bruce caught the man's wrist, twisted once. The pipe flew into the air. Before it touched the ground, Bruce kicked it sideways. The spinning pipe struck another biker squarely across the chest. He crashed backward into 2 more men. 3 opponents were eliminated before Bruce had thrown a single punch. A chain whipped toward Bruce's face. He leaned backward. The chain missed by less than an inch. Bruce grabbed it, pulled sharply. Its owner stumbled forward. Bruce planted one foot against the man's chest and used his own momentum to send him flying through the front window. Glass exploded outward. Outside, 2 bikers rushed in with baseball bats. Bruce ducked beneath the first swing. His palm struck one attacker's ribs. The bat slipped from the man's hands. Bruce caught it in midair. He spun once. The wooden bat struck 3 wrists in rapid succession. Crack, crack, crack! 3 weapons clattered onto the floor. Bruce immediately threw the bat aside. He refused to keep it. He didn't need weapons. He only needed timing. Victor pushed through the chaos like an unstoppable tank. "You belong in my fighting pits." Bruce avoided another crushing hook. "I don't fight for entertainment." Victor answered with a knee aimed at Bruce's stomach. Bruce blocked with both forearms. The impact drove him backward. His shoes carved lines across the wooden floor. Victor smiled. "I finally moved you." Bruce looked at the floor beneath his feet, then back at Victor. "You did." Victor charged again. This time Bruce didn't retreat. Their fists collided, forearms slammed together, elbows flashed. Neither man gave an inch. Around them, the remaining bikers continued attacking from every direction. Bruce moved constantly, never staying in one place. One man rushed with a crowbar. Bruce sidestepped. The crowbar buried itself into a wooden pillar. Bruce trapped the attacker's elbow. A quick shoulder turn sent the enormous biker crashing through an empty booth. Another swung a motorcycle helmet. Bruce intercepted the arm. His fingers briefly touched a pressure point near the shoulder. The biker froze. His entire arm became numb. He stared in horror. "I can't move!" Bruce gently pushed him aside. "I told you." More attackers filled the space immediately. The fight became faster, harder, more dangerous. Victor finally landed a clean strike. His fist caught Bruce across the side of the face. The sound silenced the room. Bruce staggered 2 steps. Blood appeared on his lip. The bikers erupted into cheers. Victor breathed heavily. "There!" he laughed. "You bleed just like everyone else." Bruce wiped away the blood, looked at it for a brief second, then smiled. "Yes." Victor frowned. Bruce continued. "So do you." Without warning, Bruce disappeared. To everyone watching, it looked impossible. One instant he stood 3 feet away. The next, he was inside Victor's guard. A palm strike landed against Victor's chest. A second struck beneath the shoulder. A third connected with the ribs. Victor blocked the fourth. But the fifth, a short vertical punch, stopped less than an inch from his throat. Victor froze. He realized something terrifying. Bruce could have crushed his windpipe. Instead, he had stopped. Victor slowly looked into Bruce's eyes. "You—" Bruce lowered his fist. "I don't enjoy hurting people." Victor stared at him. "You had the chance." Bruce nodded. "I always have a choice." For several seconds, neither man moved. The remaining bikers looked toward Victor, waiting for another order. Victor's breathing slowly returned to normal. His pride battled against the truth standing before him. Then, one reckless young biker ignored the silence. With an angry scream, he picked up a long steel pipe and charged directly toward Maggie. The elderly woman never saw him coming. Shadow did. The German shepherd exploded forward, not barking, not growling, simply moving with astonishing speed. He slammed into the attacker's chest before the pipe could fall. The biker hit the floor. The steel pipe slid harmlessly across the tiles. Shadow stood over Maggie without biting the man, without injuring him, only preventing the attack. The biker looked into the dog's eyes. Fear replaced anger. Bruce smiled proudly. "Good boy." Shadow immediately backed away and returned beside Bruce, still calm, still disciplined. The entire diner had witnessed something extraordinary, not just Bruce's skill, but the dog's complete control. Victor slowly turned toward his own men. He looked at the broken furniture, the injured bikers, the shattered windows, then toward Bruce. Finally, he laughed, not mockingly, respectfully. He raised both hands. "Enough." The diner became silent. Every biker stopped fighting. Victor walked toward Bruce. Each step echoed through the ruined room. When he finally stood in front of Bruce, everyone expected one final punch. Instead, Victor extended his hand. Bruce looked at it, then shook it. Victor spoke quietly. "I've beaten stronger men." He paused. "But I've never met a stronger spirit." Bruce answered, "Strength isn't measured by what you can destroy." Victor nodded slowly. "It's measured by what you choose not to." Bruce smiled. "Exactly." Victor turned toward his gang. His voice thundered through the diner. "We're leaving." Nobody argued. Nobody questioned him. One by one, the Iron Jackals walked out into the rain. Even Logan, Derek, and Mason limped toward their motorcycles without speaking. Within minutes, the roaring engines faded into the distance. Silence returned to Ashbrook. Only the rain remained. Maggie slowly approached Bruce. Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know how to thank you." Bruce looked around the damaged diner. "I'll help clean." Maggie laughed through her tears. "You just saved every person in this room." Bruce picked up a broken chair. "Then let's save the diner too." For the next several hours, every customer stayed. The retired sheriff repaired broken windows. Truck drivers lifted heavy furniture. The waitresses swept away shattered glass. Even the children helped gather scattered silverware. Bruce quietly repaired tables beside them. Shadow rested near the front door, peacefully watching the street. As evening sunlight finally broke through the clouds, Maggie placed a fresh slice of homemade apple pie in front of Bruce. "This one," she said with a smile, "is on the house." Bruce looked at the pie that had started the entire conflict. He smiled softly. "Thank you." Shadow wagged his tail once. The customers laughed. For the first time that day, the diner truly felt like home again. Years later, people in Ashbrook would tell visitors about the rainy afternoon when one quiet traveler and his loyal German shepherd walked into Maggie's family grill. Some claimed Bruce defeated 40 men. Others insisted the number was even higher. The details changed with every retelling, but everyone agreed on one truth. It wasn't Bruce Lee's speed that they remembered most. It wasn't his incredible skill. It wasn't even the impossible fight against overwhelming odds. It was the moment he stopped his final punch, because that single act proved something far greater than victory. A true warrior does not fight because he hates those standing before him. He fights only when there is no other way. And when peace finally becomes possible, he chooses mercy over revenge. That was the lesson the people of Ashbrook never forgot.